This is For the Governed, a podcast series brought to you by Athalonz. Here are your hosts, Tim Markison and Ron Cates.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting and interesting Athalonz podcast. I'm Ron Cates. With me, as always, is Tim Markison, the CEO and founder of Athalonz. Today is the first part of a three-part series. We're going to talk about the key aspects of a golf shoe. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of these three things apply to other athletic performance shoes as well.
That is correct.
Okay. Take it away, Tim.
The first of three is how the shoe engages with the ground. And then the second of three is how the forces traverse through the shoe between the foot and the ground. And then the third is how the foot actually engages the shoe within the shoe.
So the first is, I think, what most people think of when they think about shoes. It's traction. You know, does it have spikes or cleats or what's on there so I get great traction with the ground? But I think that's a lot more complex than people realize.
With respect to the golf shoe, traction is the important thing with respect to the ground shoe connection. Because as we're going through our golf swing, if we start to slip, the whole mechanics of the swing goes south. So it's very important to have the traction, and that's what a lot of golf shoes focus on, is the traction. So they have the cleats, whether they're spikeless or they have the spikes in them. It's about making sure that the foot doesn't slip during the entire golf swing. Now, from a physics standpoint, what that is doing is we have enough friction force in the shoe to prevent the shoe from moving on the ground. So if my hand were the shoe, we have enough force to hold that in place. As soon as that starts to slip, it goes. But with respect to a golf shoe, there's times where it's advantageous to have a little bit more friction, and there's also times where it's advantageous to have a little bit less friction. So with respect to the times it's advantageous to have a little bit less friction is on the back leg. So when we get into our stance, we start to get into our backswing, we're putting more weight on the back leg, and we want that foot to stay locked in. But as we get into our downswing into the point of contact, well, now we're shifting the weight from our back foot to the front foot. And simultaneously, as we're transferring the weight, we're also rotating that back foot out to kind of help with the rotation of the body around that front side, as well as kind of pulling. So ideally, this rotational move, you'd like a little bit less friction so that you're not having to fight the shoe ground connection to get that rotation, but this linear pull of pushing, so you're kind of doing this with your hips. So you want to make sure that we have that traction where we need it and a little bit less friction so we can have a little bit easier rotation. Now on the front side is we want to make sure that that foot doesn't rotate in as we're going into our downswing. So we added actually more friction to prevent the shoe from rotating inward. So you get a little bit better energy transfer from the backside to the front side by manipulating the friction forces based on how a golf swing is executed.
So how do you come up with something, though, that works both ways? You know, that it gives you friction where you need it, but less friction where you don't want it?
With respect to a left-handed player and a right-handed player, they're mirror images of each other. So that we leverage the mirror image so that, you know, for a lefty, it's my right foot that I don't want to rotate in. So we can create a pattern that when you do the mirror image of it for the righty, it's the same motion we're trying to prevent. So on the left shoe and the right shoe, they have mirror images of our grip and glide pattern, we call it.
Yeah, you've actually created something that's patented. It's never been done before, this grip and glide pattern. Can you explain that in just a touch more detail?
Yep. So yeah, we have been issued one U.S. patent, utility patent on that. And it really gets into, it prevents linear movement. So linear movement is along a line, any particular line. And then there's rotational movement. So we have friction force in all the linear movements that we want because we don't want the foot slipping this way or that way. But again, when we're transferring energy from the back side to the front side, I want that the back foot to have a little bit less friction in the ground so it can rotate a little bit more freely so I can drive my hips a little bit harder into the golf swing. on the front side, I want a little bit more friction to prevent that rotation. So I get this really strong pivot point on my front side, and that just creates more a more rigid structure. Rigid is not the right word, but a more solid structure to pivot into the golf swing. So I get more effective mass into the swing, and I can hit the ball better.
So it makes it more stable. You have less power loss. And
Right.
if the shoe could actually redirect some of that power back to the body, then you've got the perfect triple crown, right?
Right. So it really just gives you the right amount of friction where you need it, based on how a golf swing is executed, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, and actually the more you use the ground, the more you push, the more you're really throwing your body through the swing, the more the shoes will help.